What's up, y'all? This is Wheezy, and if you enjoy this content, please remember to like and share. If you really enjoy it, please feel free to leave a review. Sending love to each and one of y'all. What's up, friends? What's up, friends? Hope everyone's doing rather exquisite. Happy Saturday. John will be with me shortly. Apparently, he's got some bad storms out in his neck of the woods, and it will be raining till about 5:30 Eastern. So in about 30 more minutes of that, I thought I'd start the show up anyways and get the party on the road. Who's in here? Who's made it out? What's up, Sweets? Thank you for reposting, Sweets. Always reposting on Rumble, and thank you everyone that will do later on. What's up, Ash? Colleen. All right. I'm sure more people will be trickling in little by little. Today's show will be, that's why it's on YouTube. It will be just a little review on the Backrooms. The Backrooms came out last week, or I'm sorry, a couple of weeks ago. I want to say 3 weeks ago. And I watched it last week. John watched it a couple of weeks back. And he, as soon as he watched it, he's like, dude, we have to do a show on it. Give our thoughts. And so that's why we were supposed to be getting together today to go over some of the key findings that we found. So I don't want to get too into it until he gets here. And let's see. In the meantime, I do want to remind you guys that I did start a couple of new shows. And they are linked on the description. There's Unshakable, and then there's After Dark Radio with Wheezy. That After Dark one is starting to pick up a little steam. People are following that one a little bit more. And I think there's like 11 episodes now. Last one I did was it was a little mini doc on Sitting Bull, which, if you are anti-government like myself, the life of Sitting Bull is pretty much it. He resisted being put into a reservation till the very end. You know, the government practically had to starve him out, keep pushing him out, and he resisted to the very end. And so, if you are anti-government like myself, you don't believe in the left-right nonsense. You think it's all bullshit. You think it's a new form of enslavement. Then, the life of Sitting Bull will definitely resonate. Spend a lot of time on that. And it's just like everything. The more you do something, the better you get. And pretty much what I'm going to be doing on After Dark Radio with Wheezy, I'm going to be anytime I get inspired by certain topics, certain books, I may do a little mini doc, mini thing, and I want to give it like a campfire vibe to it. I've got little crickets in the background, fire crackling in the in the in the fireplace. I'm trying to give it that vibe, and then it's all audio too. So I try to get you immersed fully in it, and it might not be for everyone, but it does. Some of the shows still have a little bit of that conspiratorial edge, but it's mostly for normies. I made it palatable, and I do have a couple of audios that I want to clean up. I have a couple of them uploaded, and I'm trying to cut out most of the swear words. So for people that are kind of they're not too keen, if you will, on swear words, those two shows should be right up your alley. Um, the other thing, so, and if you're just joining me, John is gonna be hopping in soon. He just has some storms going on, but I started listening to Bernal Dia del Castillo's account of the conquest of Mexico. I had heard bits and pieces, heard people give their takes on it. It's like almost, I don't know. It's definitely a 20-hour audiobook. I think it is, maybe even more than that, like 25 hours. But it's basically the memoirs of a Spanish conquistador that he wrote when he was like in the 70s or 80s, talking about he was the one that was in that first crew with Cortez. And holy shit, it is riveting. It is amazing. He says in this book, everything that I'm writing is 100% truth, blah, blah, blah. That's cool and all. That doesn't mean things happen the way this guy says. Everyone has their own biases. As I'm listening to him, he's clearly got a pro-Catholic agenda going on, a pro-conquest, a pro-Spain. Spain is number one, a Eurocentric mindset. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, but he clearly has that bias. That's all I'm trying to say. And so, but it's immersive. Reading his account is, I don't know. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't read it earlier. I'm like 6 hours in, and I am full on invested. I'm gonna say it's even better than the Cabeza de Vaca story. I don't know if you guys got inspired into reading the Cabeza de Vaca. It's on LibriVox. Both of these accounts are on LibriVox, and they're in English, so there's no excuse. Oh yeah, that was in Spanish. No, they're translated in English. You can get it, and god damn, man, it is badass shit. It is wild. It is intense, and I guess in a way, even though John's not here, I've made some parallels to the Backrooms and the exploration. Like I said, if you've been following me for the last couple of weeks, I've been saying I've been reading a lot of books from the 1500s and the 1800s. Kind of weird. I haven't really got into any 1600 shit or really 1700s. Well, I take that back. I started listening to 1776 by Stephen McDougall, I think it is. And that's all about the Revolutionary War. So there's one exception to the rule. But by and large, it's mostly 1500s, 1800s eras where I've been listening to a lot of these accounts. And as I've been reading a lot about these expeditions and explorers, holy hell, there is some Backrooms overlap to it. And I haven't heard anyone make that connection. I've been listening to a lot of people's reviews, a lot of people's takes on it. And I feel if you watch the Backrooms, that's the other thing. We haven't started talking about the Backrooms. If you haven't watched the Backrooms, spoiler alert. I should have said that. I should have prefaced that prior to all this. But spoiler alert. We're going to go deep into the movie. When John gets here, he's going to go through the lore. he's gonna catch us up to speed because, and that's good. He's coming from it from someone that studied the lore, followed it for years. I'm someone that just went to the movies last weekend and watched the goddamn movie and loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I suppose while we wait for John, I can get into my review of the Backrooms. Damn, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry. I I guess that's good. I'm I want to preface when it's my turn to speak after John comes in and gives us the lore. I'm gonna talk about the overlap with that explorer mentality, and you're gonna understand why if you've been following me for a while, because I've been full on these exploring centuries, and it's there, it's all there. The symbolism, a lot of shit, and also a reminder that that movie, what makes it a masterpiece, The Backrooms, is that you can pretty much translate it in a million different ways. There really isn't too many wrong or right ways to translate the movie. And to me, that little aspect right there is what made the movie, for me at least, magical. I made a tweet earlier in the week saying that the Backrooms movie is perhaps the greatest movie in at least a decade. And I wasn't exaggerating. There's a lot of bullshit that's come out the last few years. Some stuff kind of being okay. Nothing really that stands out if you think about it. If you guys have any ideas in the live chats, what's up, George? Welcome to the stream. Hev, I seen you in there. And If Beer and Backroads, welcome to the stream, y'all. There is no right or wrong way, but going back to the movies in the last 10 years, name me some movies that are great. Maybe I've missed it. I can't think of one in the last 10 years. There's so much bullshit, so much garbage. And I guess for me, when I watch a movie, I'm expecting greatness. If I'm going to take the family out nearly $100 to the theaters, you better blow me the fuck away, man. Especially with the economy the way it is these days, the economy and complete shit. It's better be worth it. And for me, the Backrooms was indeed worth it. It was damn good. I'm a huge Stanley Kubrick fan, and this kid, Kane Parsons, the director of the Backrooms. I don't know how many people knew that, but the kid's only 20 years old, and he was the one that directed the Backrooms. And to me, god damn, that movie, I don't know, maybe some people will disagree with me, but to me, that was a great fucking movie. It reminded me of a young Stanley Kubrick. Some people are going to say that's sacrilegious to say, but that's how I felt about it. That's how much of an amazing piece. Kubrick's movies were magical. Every single piece, from Clockwork Orange to The Shining, to 2001 Space Odyssey, that was released in 1968, 1 year before the moon landings. And I would argue that Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey did a more realistic job than what NASA did. Oh, shit. Yeah. So anyways, just be forewarned. If you haven't seen the movie, be ready for some spoiler alerts. You may want to back out and pause it and then watch the movie and then come back and listen to this review. I'm just giving everyone fair warning because, oh my God, I was going to watch it, but you ruined it for me. It's a great fucking movie. That's why I'm doing a review on it. And in this show, it's not one-dimensional. Talk about whatever the hell I want. We'll talk about music. We'll talk about Leverbox. We'll talk about the Backrooms. It's not one dimensional. Um, and so today's one of those days. Hope everyone is enjoying their weekend. It's hot as hell out here in Florida. Freaking muggy as shit too, man. My brother is in Vegas. He was telling me it was 108 degrees, but that's 108 degrees with no humidity. Out here, it was 99 degrees with 100% humidity. I'll take dry heat any day of the week over high humidity and also high heat. Two different beasts, in my opinion. Um, what else was I gonna get out of the agenda? Okay, so I kind of gave you my thoughts on the Backrooms. I already told you that, for me at least, it's one of the greater movies that we've had in quite some time. And I haven't really seen anyone in the comments say anything about whether they agree with that assessment or not. The directing was great. The acting was great. The main character, Clark, I don't know. I thought he did a kick-ass job. When you watch a movie and you start developing feelings for a character, love or hate, in this particular instance with Clark, he's not a very good guy. And you kind of want to say, what a piece of shit, what a scumbag. Fuck that guy. That means he did his job right. So kudos. And then the therapist, Mary Klein, Dr. Mary Klein, she kicked ass as well. It was a great movie all around, man. The hidden meanings, the very fact that you can translate the movie in a million different ways, that makes it magical. It's like The Shining. There's people that watch The Shining. For me, when I watched Shining, Jack Nicholson, kick ass fucking job, man. I can't remember the actress in that movie either. What the hell's her name? But she did a kick ass job. Stanley Kubrick's deviations from Stephen King's version of the book of The Shining were just magical, man. And when I see The Shining, I see nothing but NASA Easter eggs. So many NASA Easter eggs there. From, if you guys remember the little part where the little kid is in the middle of the hallway playing with his little toys. If you look at the carpet in the hallway, it looks like Cape Canaveral NASA launch sites. And then the camera zooms in again, the magic of Kubrick. Zooming in, the kid's wearing an Apollo 11 sweater. And then he stands up. And it looks like a rocket is launching off of Cape Canaveral. A nod to the moon landings. And then at the very beginning, when Jack Nicholson's character is getting the job to be the groundskeeper, the guy that's doing the hiring looks like JFK. He's got his little flags on the desk. Like JFK and NASA, come on now. What's another fun one? Room 237. In Stephen King's book, it was, I think in the 400s, it was room 400 and something. Kubrick changed it to 237. 237, depending on the time of year. Allegedly, we are 237,000 miles away. Okay, there's John right there. All right. 1 second, John. I'll send you the link. You know what, John? I'm going to put it right there on the Rumble chat. So this link is only for John to come in. There you go, John. Hit that link up, bro. And we got John going to be joining here in a minute. And there we go.
What up?
What's up, Mr. Johnny?
You were the only person, dude, where like, you must be shadow banned. There's no other, this is the second time it happened. So you're the only person. Like I saw you send me the link yesterday. It popped up when I was looking at my phone, right? That you sent it to me on X, right? You sent it to me on X, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I go again to look it up on X, and the last it just refreshed it. But anyway, the last thing I had from you was back from Saturday, March 21st, which was the other past link. So for some reason, it does not auto update the direct messages that you're sending me.
Mm. Yeah. I'm super shadow banned pretty much everywhere, bro, but it is what it is. I mean,
But that's the second. I'm just letting you know that's the second time, dude. So it's
yeah.
like I don't know what's going on. So
It's all good, bro. How have you been, man? How's those storms in
I'm
your neck of the
good.
woods?
Storm passed by. It blew some stuff around. Hopefully we don't get hit by another one the next hour to 2 hours while we are having this discussion on the back rooms. But other than that, I am blessed, brother. Hope you're doing well. You and I talk frequently throughout the week, and I love you, man. And thank you for having me back on, brother.
Love you too, my brother, man. I don't know if you catch it, but I'm always saying that, especially in this climate, you and I would say my boy Seven, man, are of the two people that I trust, and yeah. I'm not saying everyone else is a scumbag. I'm not saying everyone else is a piece of shit. I'm just saying trust. That's all. You know what I'm saying? I like a lot of people. There's a lot of people I like in this space, but do I trust them? That's a whole different thing. And I can genuinely say that about you, John. I can talk to you about anything, and
Same here, brother.
you're cool, man. I trust you, bro. And yeah, we talked about watching the back rooms. You watched it a couple of weeks ago, right?
I was the one that suggested you watch it, so we would do a review together.
Hell yeah, dude! And here we are. So, I suppose before we get started, maybe we can give the people a little bit of the lore. What was the Backrooms? What inspired the Backrooms? Because I told when you were gone, I told everyone that I'm one of the type of people that watch the Backrooms from the standpoint of just going last week to the movie theater and watching it, not knowing any background, not knowing any of that shit. So you are different in that you already had, you had the lore down. You already knew what to anticipate. So what's the backstory there?
So, okay, so we have to separate the original lore of the Backrooms from the Kane Parsons YouTube movie lore. Okay, so I remember the Backrooms when I still would go to 4chan and the X board. I used to visit 4chan probably up to 2020, 2021-ish, fairly often. I don't really anymore, except every now and then I might want to see what's being pushed on the politics board. But I would visit, various boards. I would visit the cooking board. I'd visit the video game board. I'd visit the politics board. I'd visit the paranormal board and see what was being pushed over there on X. And, and I remember seeing the original, maybe not the exact original Backrooms thread with kind of like a post with the kind of like yellow, like hallway with the kind of like yellowish carpet and like the lights, like the fluorescent lights on top and stuff like that. But I remember Backrooms being discussed and the lore being fleshed out somewhat during that time on X. And so, it kind of became this thing where you can go find the wiki where talk about the kill shed. That's a good one. Anyway, what am I? It kind of is the idea of liminal spaces, right? So spaces where we've all had them in our life where we've been in places where there's not a lot of visual input or color where we're at, right? So nothing that's really stimulating. Liminal meaning that it's kind of off-putting, but kind of like simple and kind of like basic to a degree, right? What I guess would be kind of like my overall example of a basic liminal like space type photo. Is there any way you could bring up the original photo? That was I think it was part of like some like home furnishing store. I don't remember the name. It was in Wisconsin.
I'm gonna try to pull it up while
I
you
think
speak. Go ahead.
Oshkosh, I think. If I remember. But so that's kind of the poster on X sometime during early to mid 2019 posted this photo with kind of like, you know, the creepy pasta of, you know, a person, you know, no clipping or phasing through existence, you know, in which we kind of have a version somewhat of what it would be to no clip if all of a sudden a sinkhole opened up and you fell through it, right? You know, now you wouldn't no clip to another dimension, but you would fall
What
straight down.
what does no clip mean for those people that
So
may
no
not be?
clipping would be like in a video game, right? So if you ever played a video game, you've ever like clipped through like a wall and peered on the other side, or clipped through the flooring and fell down into like nothingness, you know, that's no clipping, right? And so, you know, for the back rooms, it would be yes. The Truth Seeker mentioned Stephen King's The Langoliers, mentioned liminal spaces and empty airport. Yes, I always bring up the Langoliers when I'm trying to explain the back rooms because both of those remind me of the same thing. Okay, and you literally have also the Langoliers that would eat time away too, right? Yes, True Seeker. So, in the Langoliers, I guess as a side, they go to an airport that they can't escape, where there's literally nobody in there at all. Period. As the thing about the back rooms, the liminal spaces, is that there's hardly any body at all, but it goes on like infinite space, right? That you may go on forever and never find someone, right? And you know, we talk about MBTI. I'm not a fan of Stephen King, but he's an INTP like you and I, Wheezy. And so he has both the same personality. Now we can argue whether or not he had ghostwriters for his books. That's a whole nother discussion, right? But you know, there's some Stephen King books that I do like, but a lot of his books I just can't stand anymore, right? And some outright make me mad, like when I was reading Cell and it didn't have an ending and I threw it across the room and then made my best friend go read it to punish him when I was younger, right? I guess I'm digressing there, but anyway. And so you kind of have like these liminal spaces that people would no clip in. They would no clip in the 4chan lore and they would no clip in the back rooms. So they would all of a sudden clip between this dimension where you would become now in the 4chan posts, you would become stuck unless you happen to find a way out, which is like a very low percentage that you would ever find a way out. And if you did, you could no clip, which is also in the YouTube series as well too. When you no clipped back to Earth, you could no clip way high up in the sky and fall to your death too, right? You could no clip anywhere, right? You know, you can no clip at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, you know. So anyway, I guess I'm digressing, but I mean, are you following along with me, Wheezy? Everybody in chat following along with me? Hopefully they are, but
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, and so the difference also in the 4chan lore and the Kane Parsons YouTube movie lore is that there was like these you have various entities and various factions of people trying to survive in the back rooms. Now you do have kind of entities in the YouTube and the movie. In the YouTube, you have like kind of like this mold monster-ish thing. And then in the movie, you have the back rooms making copies of people and not making them quite right, and they become entities, as well as entities in the movie as well too, that was separate from the mold monster that's in the YouTube Kane Parsons project. And like people could come and go out of the back rooms. There's a company called ASIC that comes and goes in the back rooms in the movie, but not in the 4chan lore. And they're working on MRI technology, which is magnetic resonance imaging. And through the manipulation of magnetic fields, they found themselves an ability to be able to open up and to go into the back rooms. It was purely by accident, at least from the lore, from what we could tell. They weren't trying to go into the back rooms, but through the manipulation of magnetic fields through MRI technology. Because the back rooms movies take place and lore takes place between the 80s and the 90s. Early 90s is when the movie takes place, early to mid 90s. But you know, and so that is the difference between the lores. The Kane Parsons YouTube Kate Parsons is also young. He's Gen Z.
20 years old. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And so he took it and made the series on YouTube, which is different. And then some people prefer the lore that's you can go find the wiki that was made up through 4chan. Some people prefer the Kane Parsons movie lore. I prefer the Kane Parsons movie lore. I like it better, to be honest with you guys. But yeah, I mean, I've studied both of them. I knew about both of them before I ever went to see the movie. Ashley in the chat, shout out to you, Ashley. Hope you're doing well. You asked me what Stephen King books do I like. I'm more of a Dean Koontz fan. I put them both the same. I like a lot more Dean Koontz books, or at least I did in the past. I don't know if I'd recommend them now, but Stephen King books that I think that are like the best narrative wise and well written. I think Salem's Lot would be an example of one that I still think would be a decent like narrative for a book. And you know the Shining Kubrick movie is better than the actual Stephen King Shining book. His short stories, The Green Mile, is good. It's a little different, but it's good. And so is The Shawshank Redemption. It's a little different too. But anyway, yeah, I would say probably um, uh, the best one that I think that was written that was good was Salem's Lot, in my opinion. Yeah, I still have a soft spot for Dean Koontz. I always will. I always prefer Dean Koontz over Stephen King. I always will. But anyway, Odd Thomas is still one of my favorite books of all time. But yeah. So anything you got to say about the Backrooms, Wheezy?
So before you came on, I kind of gave a review what I thought about the Backrooms, and before we get into the explanations and what we took out of it, I'd like to hear your review on it. I essentially said that I really, really enjoyed it. In my opinion, the best movie in at least a decade that has come out. Kane Parson, if he indeed directed it and he isn't an MK Ultra stooge, which I suppose you could argue. If he did do it all by himself and it's all organic, I would say this is like Stanley Kubrick level material, in my opinion. That's my review. What are your thoughts on it? Before we get into it, I know people are itching for it, but I want to remind people, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched this movie, you may not want to. I'm giving you guys plenty of time to back out. You can always back out and then watch the movie and come back and watch this. I just don't want to piss anyone off. Giving everyone plenty of warning that there will be spoiler alerts to come. But before we get into that, what was your review on the movie overall?
I give it a 7. I talked to you about it. I originally thought it was an 8. So I went in watching Kane Parsons' YouTube project and thought it was relatively good. He had written a lot of it with some of his friends, if I remember correctly. And Kane Parsons also has some film school training, if I remember too. And so if you go actually watch the YouTube videos, it's obvious that he made those, in my opinion. Like, it's obvious that, you know, someone at his age could have filmed and made those videos. Now, it has come to light that Kane Parsons was not likely the only director for the movie. And it wasn't written by him. It was written by a man named Will Sodick, who is a screenwriter who really only wrote for just, you know, some other television shows, not really any other movies that I can really see. So Kane Parsons, who with, you know, I think his friends, you know, help write some of the YouTube videos and kind of the screenplays for those. I'm not saying that Kane Parsons didn't have a input in the screenplay for the Backrooms, or even an input for the directing of the Backrooms, even though he's credited as being the main director. But I will say that I think, based off, if you go watch did you watch any of his previous YouTube?
No, I don't know much about it. I know my sons were telling me quite a bit about it, but I did not go back. I did watch a few people breaking down, trying to catch me up to speed. of the timeline. I suppose it takes place even in the 90s, right?
Correct. Yes, it does. The early to mid 90s, roughly.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so he it's different. And since it's different, I don't know if I was expecting very similar to the YouTube. I was expecting because okay, so spoilers, I'm going to review the movie, all right? So we have this man named Clark, and he owns a furniture store, and has a pun with it with the Ottoman Empire, right? Which Ottoman is also a type of furniture, and it also has him dress up as a pirate to try to sell furniture. And later he tries to run a commercial to get. He wants to try to get people into a store, and in the entire movie, just like the back rooms, you literally see no customers go into a store at all. Period, not a single time. And you see Clark growing in desperation. He has had a failed marriage. He has succumbed to alcoholism. He wanted to be an architect. Those failed dreams never occurred, and he went to go see a therapist whose name was Mary. And so
Mary
Mary,
Klein.
yes, Mary Klein, yes,
MK.
that's true, yes. So Mary, as a child, her mother was schizophrenic, likely, and was a recluse and kept her from going outside until eventually social services and the police bust down their door to rescue Mary when she was a child because her mother had gone insane. And you don't find that until later in the movie, but it's important. That's the reason why I'm front loading it first. So Mary becomes a psychiatrist, psychologist. She develops her own system. It's called like entering in, like going out the window or something to that effect. And she wished that there's a part of the movie where she actually tries to go out the window because she wants to go outside and she hears birds and stuff like that. And her mom closes the window and she's unable to do it herself. Right. And so she develops a system about moving on and, trying to work through your problems and, going out the window. Right. And so she's, she's discussing with Clark, and they're doing role playing, between Clark and his wife. And, so later Clark goes back to the Ottoman Empire. He's sleeping there because he's kicked out of his house. And, he owns a furniture store, right? So he's sleeping and he's watching television, and some weird stuff start happening down in the basement of the Ottoman Empire with the lights and everything. And then so he calls an electrician. The electrician notices the breaker box that there's two switches that are down at the bottom that are catacornered. They're not supposed to be there. They're, when you have a breaker box, you have a list of switches for the breakers that are straight down, but these two are down at the bottom and they're kind of catacornered, which you would not have. First of all, it can't be wired properly, and it would not be up to code. And second, you can't really have, switches like that. So, he's messing with the switches, and the lights are kind of not really doing anything, but yet they kind of are, and it's kind of weird. And so he leaves, right? And so, Clark's there. And then he eventually goes back downstairs and he's messing with the breaker box, and he presses those two weird kind of corner breakers, and the lights go out, but then he sees this shiny gleaming line appear from the wall. Now there should be no gap in the wall, right? And he's like, what in the world is this, right? And so he presses on it and goes through into the back rooms. Okay. And so he ends that liminal space. Wheezy, could you put up the picture of where he enters into? Because it's the famous picture from the 4chan thread. And so he enters into what would be considered to be level 1 of the back rooms. Okay. So he's no clipped into the back rooms. And Clark, unlike the rest of the people that we see that clip through, like Mary, or later Clark gets two people who work for him to go down there and videotape him in the back rooms. They also filmed a little commercial with him being the pirate. They're all step in and they're like, what is going on? What is happening? They're freaking out, right? Where Clark goes through and he's like, well, what is this? What is going on? He's not freaking out at all. He's more inquisitive, all right? He's like, what had just happened here? And I think if you go look on the MBTI for Clark, they say he's an ESTP. I think he's an INTP like me and Wheezy, to be honest. because he's at least a TP for sure. And ESTP would have the same function that me and Wheezy have at the top, which is introverted thinking. So maybe. But that whole acquisitive where me and Wheezy, if something like that ever happened to us or something similar to that, we would be inquisitive. We might be scared, but we'd be like, okay, so what is going on here? Okay. And so that was why he was different compared, I believe, all the other people that went in the back rooms in the movie. The two, the girl and the guy and the woman, I think they were all feelers from an MBT and I standpoint. The therapist was definitely an INFJ for sure. I think the filmer was probably ESFP. I think the other girl was probably his girlfriend was either an INFP or an ISFP. So, so anyway, Clark goes through and he's kind of figuring out the back rooms, and he goes back to the therapist and he gives her this picture that he's drawn of the back rooms. And because he was a farmer architect, he kind of has a decent skill of the lay of the land, right? Like he can kind of map out certain features of the back rooms that he's exploring because he's an architect. He has architect training, right? So he kind of understands design and everything like that. So he's trying to explain it to her and he's showing this map and she's like thinking he's crazy and stuff like that and everything. And I mean, if someone told you this, you think they're crazy too, right? And Clark's already having issues and stuff like that. So she kind of just like downplays it and he gets mad and he leaves. And so that's when he gets the two people that worked for him to go in there and film it with him. Now, here's one part where I think that the movie kind of dropped the ball a little bit. We were missing a good 15-ish more minutes of that missing week or two of Clark exploring the back rooms himself, right? I think there should have been a little bit more there, in my opinion. Do you agree with me, Wheezy, or not?
Yeah, because then you're not entirely sure if he's only been there a couple hours, a couple of days, or a couple of months.
Yeah, there's not enough. There's not enough there. And so, during this time period, I forgot to mention, he discovers ASIC. Okay, so he discovers that when he's exploring, he comes across.
And what does async mean? What's their primary purpose?
So ASIC
MRIs.
Yes. But since they discovered the back rooms, what they're trying to get a government contract to do is turn it to a place with infinite storage and infinite ability of space to live in and to shop and work and stuff like that. We really get that from the YouTube series, not so much from the movie, but that's ASIC's goal, is his government contract for all this, right? So they start renovating the back rooms to make this happen, right? And so he comes across this cardboard cutout with a microphone that is from the Voyager recording saying welcome in many different languages, right? And he goes into this room and he sees this camera, and the camera's from ASIC. ASIC put the camera up there. There are wires running from their no-clip area where their research facility is to the back rooms, okay? But he doesn't know this yet. Clark doesn't know any of this, all right? This is all going parallel to him. So him and the girl that works for him and the boy that works for him, the boy has the camera. This is when we get a found footage-esque, Blair Witch Project-esque kind of film, right? And Kane Parsons did a really good job with this part. This part was really good. I don't usually like found footage type stuff, but this was a good cinematographical juxtaposition back and forth between first person, third person, and the using of the camera. I thought it was really good. And so they're exploring it. They're exploring the back room. The girl and the guy are both freaking out at the same time, but the guy seems to be more like, whoa, what's going on, So eventually they come to this part where there's like a slide part that goes down, right? So they're going to there's a bed there because items clip through. The back rooms creates the spaces. It creates the items, okay? And some things, could you show various pictures of what the backroom stuff looks like, Wheezy, so people can get an idea of what it... So this would be like your stereotypical liminal space here, nonsensical design in hallways and lights and stuff and everything. What they call level 0, which would be level 1. Just go to Google Images and just type in Backrooms movie images. Pull up some stuff. So there you have like the liminal spaces. Try to scroll down a little bit. See if it pops up with anything, brother.
Oh shit! I thought we were looking at the same thing.
Oh, there we go. So I think that was them actually working on it, but there's one part where they go down, they lower the cameraman down into this other room, and in this other room it smells horrible, and there's unclean laundry everywhere,
Yeah.
dirty laundry everywhere, and there's not a lot of light, there's not a lot of windows. He's looking around trying to figure out what's down there. He wore this apartheid shirt, South African apartheid shirt earlier. That's Clark. He moved all that furniture that he found into that pile, okay, as a marker. All right, very smart. Clark's very smart in this movie. He's got problems, but he's no dummy. All right, and so he uses that as a marker. Okay, and anyway, so all of a sudden you hear like this weird guttural noise and screech, right? So the camera guy's panicking. That's the room. That's the room with the nasty laundry, and that's the entity in the back, right? And so that's when the blood trails, when the entity in the back. Okay, so what happens is the cameraman they try to pull him back up, and he gets back up to the top, but there's some slack in the rope that's left down into the little hole, right? And the entity pulls that rope and pulls the cameraman back down and drags him into that little door thing that you see at the end and eats him. And then there's the bed behind Clark and the girl. The bed pushes them down, and then Clark runs off to the left, and the girl runs off into that little hole, dark hole in the back, away, trying to get away, but also trying to find what happened to her boyfriend. So Clark goes to a pool. Pools in the back rooms usually symbolize danger most of the time throughout the lore. And he sets the camera down, and then the girl's voice, and she's like, "Clark, where are you? Help me." Now, we don't know if that's her. We don't know if that's an entity mimicking her. We don't know. Okay. And then all of a sudden we see this camera, the camera that Clark put down, something picks it up and starts moving towards Clark. Okay. And then it cuts off. All right. Then we see Mary Klein back as a psychiatrist, back in her office. Eventually she goes to the Ottoman Empire. It's been days or weeks later. We really don't know how long it's been. She goes back, and she goes downstairs and finds where Clark had taped off the entrance to the back rooms, goes through it, is freaked out because she doesn't understand what's going on, starts exploring the back rooms, and then she comes to a mural that somebody had painted. Now, I believe that it was Clark that painted it. That's a picture of Mary in her office, explaining kind of like the entities in the back rooms, and it's kind of like this weird, very childish, but very demented, painting, right?
Or
But
primitive.
very detailed.
Or,
Yeah, primitive.
Or primitive paintings. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Clark comes. We think it's Clark. I think it's Clark. Some people say it's not Clark. It's a Backrooms. I think it's Clark. Clark goes to her, and at first it seems like Clark's trying to help her, but then Clark chokes her out. So when she comes to, she's in a kitchen. It's a distorted kitchen, and she's tied to a chair. And there's entities inside of it, and Clark's inside of there. And hey, I need to go get my daughter from down the street real quick. Weezy, can you take over? I will be right back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man.
Can you continue from that point on? I'm sorry. Be right back.
Yeah. So as we wait for John to return, he's giving you a little taste of the whole movie. And I just put the little images of the characters. That's Dr. Mary Klein, the therapist. And then this is Clark. Now, there's different explanations. Most people say that this guy, Clark, is the main character. I think there's an argument to be made that Dr. Mary Klein was probably the main character. I'm sure when John comes back, we can get into a little bit about that. But another main character to the movie is uh, this guy right here. This is the pirate. This is the pirate Clark. And I suppose now that John has kind of given you an idea of the movie, I want to talk about an angle that came to my mind. And that angle is, as I mentioned at the very beginning, what if I've been reading a lot about the 1500s, 1800s, and whatnot, a lot about explorers. And in my mind, what if there's a theme I feel you can tie into exploration. Here you have Clark, Pirate Clark, some people call him pirates. They're from the oceans, right? The name of the furniture store is the Ottoman Empire. What do empires do when they get big? And they want to get bigger. They're already big, they want to get bigger. So they're constantly exploring new lands, new frontiers to conquer and annex all that bullshit. That's part of the exploration. So here you have Pirate Clark, a seafaring creature. Early, when Clark gets into the back rooms, one of the most creepy scenes is when you see a seagull just dead inside the basement. And for me, I'm sure everyone has their own explanation for it, but for me at least, it's back to or I meant to say explanation. For me, it's more of a piece of exploration, because when you're out in the seas, let's say you're exploring land and you don't even have it mapped out. You're out in the ocean. You're out in the ocean for days, maybe weeks, maybe months. As soon as you see a bird, that gives you relief. That gives you hope. Fuck, we're close to land now. But the inversion is true in this movie. When you're inside an enclosed space and you see a bird, now you're like, what the fuck is this? You see what I'm trying to say? It's the inversion of being out in the open, out in the high seas, out where Pirate Clark is supposed to be at, and you see one in there, and it's completely inverted. Also, when Clark is in there, when he first gets in there, when he first sticks his hand and he figures out he can go into this new realm, this new area, the back rooms, he's initially scared. He's nervous. And he starts exploring. Later, he gets equipment to tie a rope and explore it. Just like the early explorers did when they didn't have any maps, you know? They were just going on a whim. They didn't know what was this and what was that. So he's exploring. And when he meets with Mary Klein, the therapist, later, he brings a detailed map of sketch of there's this room right here, there's this room right there. Very similar to what the first explorers were doing. They were mapping their stuff out as they were going along. They had no satellites, they had no planes. They were just mapping it out along. So for me, it's an allegory towards exploration, and you tie it into artificial intelligence. That's the way I would tie it in. So they're exploring new frontiers. And so what's the new frontier that we are currently engaging in today? I would argue it's artificial intelligence. I don't know how much you caught of that, John, but I was bringing in my how I tied in exploration.
Yeah, I think
the whole Backrooms movie.
Yeah, we talked about it. So yeah, I mean, I agree. The uncanny valley, right? The uncanny valley is the humans, a person's ability to detect whether something is made from artificial intelligence or not, right? And that threshold, right? That so-called threshold. And when you're looking at, right here, the distorted Clark, right? The Backrooms trying to make a copy of Clark when he did the commercial, but it's unable to do properly, right? And then when it did you get to the part where it kills Clark?
No, I didn't even finish out the story. You left off at where he's meeting with the therapist and whatnot.
Okay, so the therapist is tied to the table and there's entities there. One of them represents Clark's wife. She's a white woman with a red dress, but her face is distorted and she's in the corner. And there's a guy with 4 sets of eyes, I think I remember, maybe 6, that's sitting at the table. And they're just sitting there. They're just like, they're not doing anything. They're just existing. And they're not attacking anybody either. They're just existing. And Clark sits down and he starts, eating the guy beside her, but he's not bleeding. It's just like he's eating like goo, like candy, like fluff, out of his stomach, and he's like, they don't care. They don't feel anything. And then they do the reverse role play again. But this time, Clark realizes that he doesn't want to change. He likes the back rooms. He doesn't want to be a good person. He doesn't want to be whatever people want him to think. It's interesting because he's speaking to a psychiatrist or psychologist, like a therapist, right? But his breakthrough isn't to try to be a better person. His breakthrough is, I could cover up with apathy and not care, and it really doesn't matter. And down here in the back rooms, I can live here forever and do whatever I want, and nothing really truly matters, right? So that's not really like a positive change. It is acceptance, but it's a negative acceptance, right? And so, but he does have a quote unquote breakthrough. So when that happens, the pirate Clark comes in and he goes up to the pirate Clark and he's like, what are you doing here? And also the entity that was his copy of his wife runs into the corner before this happens, right? Because she's scared of this entity, right? And so the big Clark, he talks to the big Clark, and the big Clark kind of goes over to him and starts eating him and cuts his jugular vein and eats it, right? Now, there's many interpretations of this point. One is it was mimicking Clark just eating earlier. And so Clark was eating earlier. So all these backrooms entities just do is just mimic. They don't know any better. They just mimic whatever they see, or they're just there, right? Yeah, it's him sitting at the table. You can see his wife in the left back corner, right? His not his real wife, but the backroom's copy of his wife. And when he opens up the fridge, you also see the head of the girl that was
Cat.
once that worked with him earlier. Her head's in there. Okay, but we don't know how her head got in there. We don't know if Clark cut it off. We don't know if an entity cut. I would assume an entity did it, But anyway, so Clark dies. All right. So during this time, and Clark had begun trying to let loose the therapist, right? And so the therapist gets away and runs past the entity eating and killing Clark, right? And another way I heard someone discuss this was that Clark was no different. Like when he entered the back rooms, he was always the same person. He wasn't different in any way. It wasn't like he was freaked out. It wasn't like that he was, he was apathetic. When he was the only one that went into the back rooms, that wasn't like, oh my gosh, what's going on? He was just kind of like, but when he had that breakthrough, on the other hand, he was crying. He was emotional. He had changed, right? So the backrooms no longer recognized him as an entity, instead had recognized him as an intruder or something that was new, that was not supposed to be there, which is why the pirate Clark killed him. It's another interpretation. I don't know. And that's one of my problems with the film. I'm going to get to that. So she runs around. She thinks that she goes to this part where she thinks that it is her returning to the Ottoman Empire. But instead, she just went through another level of the back rooms that looks exactly like a distorted version of the Ottoman Empire. And she doesn't realize it until she gets to the top floor and realizes, wait a minute, that little cutout from ASIC that we saw earlier, it's in a circle of all these speakers. Wait a minute, that wasn't in Clark's Ottoman Empire earlier. And when she gets to the door, she realizes it is locked and it is dark outside. And now the pirate thing is chasing her. Well, she attacks the pirate thing and actually wounds it. But wait a minute, I didn't think the entities could get wounded. But this one did, and it's bleeding. It's bleeding out of its wood, which, if you notice, Clark wrote that on his little mural. I remember that. Clark had discovered that some of them can bleed too, just like humans. Anyway, she runs to this part, and this triggers this alarm where ASIC was trying to catch the entity, and it sprays it kind of like with this gas and disorients her. And she fights off and kills, like picks up something and kills the giant Clark thing, right? And then she's running, and then ASIC, she comes to the part where the ASIC people had met to, where they grab her and they bring her back to the opening of where their base is at. And then she gets interviewed by a guy that we've seen who worked for ASIC throughout the entire movie. I forgot his name. He was a scientist. He's played by the excellent actor Mark Duplass, who I like very much as an actor. And he sits down with her, and she's like, I know you're Mary. I know you're this. And they're talking, and he's like, I need you to describe exactly what was happening down there. Now, Mary's not a dummy. All right. She's like pretty much figured out, well, if I tell you, you're going to kill me. Right? Because she figured out the government's involved, corporations involved, something's involved. And if she gives them her leverage that she has of what she discovered, they're going to kill her. She's very smart. I'll give her that. Mary's very smart. And Mark Duplass is like, that's not up to me. I need you to tell me. And then the movie ends where it goes through various cuts of that room changing. And at the very end, we get a distorted copy of Mary Klein that the Backrooms had made at the ending of the movie. Now, my issues with it, the reason why I don't give it as high as Wheezy does, and my problems with it. For one, the actress that played Mary Klein ain't that great. The actor that played Clark, on the other hand, is very good. The actor that played Clark is very good. Mark Duplass is very good. And the two people that played his workers, they were okay. They're fine. But Clark was very good. Mary was kind of wooden. She was kind of wooden, in my opinion. She wasn't the best. Next part. The movie leaves a lot.
Hold up.
Okay.
Before you move on, based on your your review on Mary Klein's acting, okay, go on, carry on.
You're allowed to have your opinion. I didn't like her. I didn't think she was that great. And I will say this: the actress that played Mary Klein, I haven't seen her in other things that I don't know of. Maybe she's better in other things, but there were other people, especially people who really truly love the Backrooms and made YouTube channels. They didn't like really her performance either.
I don't give a shit. I don't know nothing about them. I just saw her acting, and I thought she kicked a lot of ass, man. I thought Clark kicked a lot of ass.
Clark was excellent. The man who played Clark, I'd watch him in other things. He was very good.
But I like Mary Klein as well. She came off as I thought her role as a therapist that also had issues, she pulled it off, man.
What was written for her was good. Her actual acting, I disagree.
I disagree with your disagreement.
Yeah, see,
but that's the thing, though. I mean, that's it. We can do that and still be homies. I think that's why I rated it so high. Like, that's why I said at the very beginning before you came on, to me, in my opinion, The Backrooms is the greatest film I personally have watched in the last at least a decade, man. I got Stanley Kubrick vibes, man. I'm not one to see a movie over and over and over again. I know some people do that. I never
Not even.
understood whenever I went to friends' house and they had like fucking libraries of
Yeah,
DVDs
I was never.
and movies.
It's both us being an INTP. We don't do that. We generally do
Yeah,
not do that.
I was like, who does this shit? Like, I can only watch a movie one time
Me
and
too.
I hit it and quit it.
Unless it's one of the best. Unless it's one of the best.
Exactly, there you go. Unless it's super fucking good, I would watch it over and over again. The Backrooms is on that level for me, at least. I'm like, man, that thing was a masterpiece. Because the reason I want to watch it again is because I'll pick up new angles, new pieces that I may have missed at the very beginning. And so, and the fact that you can derive so many different explanations from it, that again makes it a great movie. Another piece that makes it a great movie for me is that I had no idea what was going to happen next. You know, so many movies that you watch, oh, you already know what's going to happen. Oh, I already know this is going to happen. Oh, he's going to get saved at the end. Oh, she's going to be the superhero in this movie. It's too predictable, and
Mary
hate
could
that
have
shit.
died. Mary could have died. She could have easily died.
Yeah.
Like easily. Like you know, like there was a part where even I thought that she was going to die. I thought it was it, you know, like I didn't think she was going to get out of it. And I'll give you that is a positive for the movie, but it lacks that. The YouTube's okay, so it was still kind of a lot of your psychological thrillers and psychological horrors, which is my brand of horror thriller type movies. Okay, I don't like slashers, I don't like gore porn, I don't like that stuff. All right, but I've always liked a good psychological horror and a good psychological thriller.
Like The Shining, bro. Like
The Shining, Shutter Island.
To me, it was a new age.
You know,
yeah, it was like it was like a newer version of The Shining for me. The Backrooms was. You may disagree with it, but for me,
I don't disagree with that.
And to me, that some of the people that criticized The Backrooms, they were expecting a jump scare type of movie over and over.
That's not how it is.
Nope. If you are into jump scares, you're gonna be disappointed.
Which I'm not. But, I can believe them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way.
There were a few in this,
care
but
for
they were done
scares.
very well, though.
Yeah, they didn't interrupt the flow of the movie. They were put in at
and they were also very difficult to figure out when they were going to happen.
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot of warning; they just happened.
But
kind of how real life is.
And that again, that's why I gave it a high rate of movie. You didn't know what was coming next. You didn't know when the movie was going to end. You didn't know if so-and-so was going to die, who was going to make it alive. There's no way, if you had no context, especially, you didn't know how the movie was going to play out.
Yeah.
And so many movies today, as soon as you start watching the first few minutes, you already have a pretty... Your mind has already construed an ending and who's going to be the hero, who's going to be the villain.
I'll say this. I went in knowing about this and still did not know the direction it was going to go.
Yeah.
To be honest.
There you go. So that to me, that should give the movie all its props right there, man, because I don't think people realize the amount of mastery that it takes to do something like that. You know what I mean? Because even to keep someone like you, that you were paying attention to the lore, you already knew some background prior to watching it, and it still caught you off guard. That's a masterpiece, bro.
I mean, yeah, I again, yes, but at the same time, the third act was lacking. It was lacking in that, at least the YouTube video, you still have that in a good psychological thriller and a good psychological horror movie. They're usually rewatchable, and they're usually things that we could argue about forever what the meanings of certain things are, right? I don't have a problem with that. Now, I'm glad the movie did have somewhat an ending. It wasn't like Stephen King's Cell. Spoilers for Stephen King's Cell. But the father's trying to reverse the son being a zombie, and the people turn to zombies because they heard a specific tone through their phone, which is non-native EMF, that turns them into this crazy hyper-adrenaline zombie. And so supposedly the lore is you could put two of the signals together on each ears and it would turn the person back. The novel ends of the father doing that, but you not find out what happens. Okay. That type enrages me to no end. It's lazy as hell writing. I don't care who does it. All right. You didn't get it here. It did have an ending. Okay. You really don't know what happened to Mary, but you can kind of infer one way or the other, and it had an ending and it's going to continue. Right. So it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But my issue again is the third act. There's too much unexplained, which obviously I'll get some pushback for people who love Backrooms. I'll say, well, that's what the Backrooms is supposed to be, John. It's supposed to be unnerving. It's supposed to not make any sense. It's supposed to be nonsensical. It's supposed to be chaos for chaos sake. And I understand that, but I still think that's weak. It's weak writing because we really don't know why the entities let Carl live. We have no idea. Clark, not Carl. We don't even know if that's the real Clark. Now, I think it is. But some people say it's not.
Yeah, so let's get into that and the reason people would say that it's not is when Mary first gets into the back rooms and then she sees like an entity and we don't even know what it is.
Correct.
You can even debate if that was Clark or not or something completely different. You just see a blur in the background. And then all of a sudden Clark peers out from the side like, hey, what's up? Don't be scared. There are people that have argued, what if Clark got chopped up along with the other two, when they had the rope down and there's blood splatter and they were getting. Some people have said or have theorized, what if he was destroyed back with those other two and this other Clark is not even the real Clark?
It's a copy made in the back rooms.
Well,
a rendition in the back rooms.
Check this out. Check this theory out that I heard. Some people are saying, what if that's the rendition that Mary remembers because of all the time she's been spending with Clark? That's why he shows up almost completely intact because she's been deep down in his mind as his therapist. So she knows this darker side of him.
Yeah, true.
He understands it. And so that's why instead of like the other figments that have 6 eyes and all this bullshit, he's almost fully intact because that's how intimate she's been in his mind. And so that's the rendition of him. And he's long gone. He probably got chopped up in the pool rooms, when the pirate Clark picks up the camera, he probably chopped them up there.
Which would make sense if you really think about it, because the mural is as of a kid, right? And Mary, in a lot of ways, still has a child's mind, still try to get through her own trauma, the flashbacks that she has in the film. And on top of that, all of that, which you had mentioned, again, to go back to that being true is she feels like she can't help she could not help her mother and she can't help herself. So in reality, she failed Clark and was not able to help him. And so that's why the Clark goes, I can't change, because she couldn't help him.
I'm wired this way. And so the Backrooms kind of is the darker parts of us. You know what I mean? Like the darker masks of us. And that's why Clark is happy. He's like, damn, I'm a piece of shit, but I can be a piece of shit down here. And Pirate Clark, in many ways, is his version that he has hidden, but in the Backrooms has been fully exploited because he's a little guy. He's not a giant guy. And so his ego, his alter ego, his asshole ego comes out as a massive pirate version that just fucks everyone up because he doesn't give a fuck, bro. He's wired that way. And in the Backrooms, that's the version of Clark that is out there roaming about. Now, when Mary starts to try to make a getaway from Pirate Clark and she's hurt, and then it finally catches up to her, she pulls out that little trinket that reminds her of her
Mhm,
childhood.
mhm, mhm.
And some people have interpreted that, and it makes a lot of sense that she had her own issues, just like Clark had his
She did,
issues.
yeah, yeah.
She had her own traumatic issues
Mhm.
because if you remember in many parts leading up to this, whenever she'd go to house parties, she'd be in a room full of
Correct,
people,
yeah.
and she was always comfortable alone. And
Popping
Clark
benzos.
Clark was going to her for medication,
Yep.
and she's a therapist, so her medication was popping benzos, bro.
Yep,
She
yep.
was, they were both being self-medicated. The difference is Mary clings on to something from her past, a traumatic piece from her past, and hits that fucking pirate Clark and makes it bleed. So she was able to use. It's the vice versa of what happened to Clark. Clark let his past traumas overcome him, eat him up,
Yes,
like
yes,
Pirate
yeah,
Clark
yeah,
did.
yeah.
And in her instance, she used her past traumatic
As a way to push
experiences
through.
and weaponized it.
Yeah, as a way to
And
push through.
instead of letting it consume her, she fucking used it as a weapon and overcame Pirate Clark. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at it that way, that's a powerful way of looking at it, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, she was able to use it to push through. Yeah, I could see that interpretation of that exact sequence for sure. It's crazy how you and I only watched the movie once and we remember so much of it only seeing it one time. Like but yeah, I mean that would make sense. I mean Mary throughout the movie, especially didn't she realize too when she was talking to Clark where she was like, "I messed up. How do you think that I'm going to be able to fix you if I'm messed up?" Didn't she have that realization? Am I misremembering that, or is that what happened
No,
too?
no,
Right?
she did say that, and again, that ties into her battling with her own demons. You know what I mean? They both have demons.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
not just
yeah.
Clark having his demons. She has her own demons, but in this circumstance, one person is able to overcome their demons, and the other one allows the
Yeah,
demons to
succumbs to it.
consume them.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And you could say too that maybe that's why the pirate Clark ate the regular Clark was because that Clark was a Clark that she had made up that did not supposed to exist in the back rooms. The back rooms didn't make it. It made it from her memories.
Yeah. It's wild shit, bro.
All right, I'm
And-
moving it back up to an 8. You convinced me.
Yeah, and that's fine, bro. I'm not trying to convince
I know that,
anyone of
but you
anything.
convinced me. You convinced me back, moving it back up to an 8. You convinced me through talking it with you, move it back up to an 8.
Yeah, I give it a solid 10, bro. And I don't do that. I'm highly critical of a lot of shit. I can't even, maybe if I think about it more, I can find some ways to dock it, but I can't at the moment, dude. Everything was masterclass, man. The fact that the movie takes place in a furniture store.
Yeah.
Now, take the concept of a furniture store. We've all been to furniture stores. We've all been there. Now, when you go there, what do you see? You see replica bedrooms.
Yeah.
You see replica dining rooms.
Yeah.
These are all replicas that will never be dined upon. We assume we'll never have any relations in these bedrooms, in these replica bedrooms. They're just there for display. That kind of plays on, the whole AI element where these things aren't real. Like that meme of that girl in the plane. These motherfuckers ain't real. This is shit that is there. It looks real. I mean, when you see these displays of the bedrooms or kitchens and whatnot, they look real, but they're not real. They're just replicas. And so when you go down into the back rooms, remember when Clark first gets into the back rooms and there's a pile of furniture?
Yeah.
And remember I was talking about the explorer angle? That's like an island.
Yeah.
Remember, everything is piled up in this little island. And then to make sure in his mind that what he experienced was real. What does he do? He grabs a fucking bar stool, grabs it, and chucks it into the into the other dimension or reality itself,
Mhm.
to as some sort of a souvenir. And yeah, there's that explorer angle to it, man, that I just can't shake off my
Did
head.
you talk about the
Especially
birds, the seagulls?
the seagull, yeah.
Yeah.
How what I mentioned was how when you're out in the open seas, when you see a bird, that gives you hope, especially if you've been on the seas for days, weeks, months. As soon as you see a bird, your emotions change to hell yeah, dude, we're gonna make it. Especially if you're running out of food, you're running out of water. That's gonna give you hope. That's gonna inspire to keep pushing. You've got land nearby. When you see a effing seagull in the back rooms in the basement, it's gonna produce the opposite effect. You're like, what in the hell is going on here? Why is there a bird in the basement? You know what I'm saying? And that's the takeaway I got out of it, because it's the inversion of seeing a bird. And here's if you don't want to go that explorer route, a bird, when you think of a bird, it's out in the open sky, in the open air. It's free, freedom, free. And now you have a bird that's dead.
And the bird doesn't, unlike a person, the bird is unable to rationalize that it is stuck like somewhere, like it's stuck there, right? Like a bird ain't gonna know, and so it's sad because the bird is just trapped. And is there okay, here's something I want to ask you if we can do this. Could you pop up the very first episode of the Backrooms on YouTube and we watch it together and give commentary? It shouldn't be very long.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
You think that's a good idea?
You think I'll get copyright?
Not if we talk about it. No, not if we. This is a transformative work.
Or I could end the stream on YouTube and not even have to.
Yeah, do that. Do that.
So if you guys want to continue this, this breakdown of the Backrooms, follow me on Rumble or Odyssey. If you go to Rumble, just put in Wheezy What is Truth Podcast on Rumble, and on Odyssey, same thing, What is Truth Podcast by Wheezy, and look for this particular episode, which is called it's number 309, Backrooms Review Explained with John Brisson. It will also be on audio podcast format. So everyone on YouTube, thank you guys for coming out. If you guys want to join us, hop onto these alternate platforms and we'll catch you guys there. All right.